Let's get ready to rock and roll, everybody. I am Magnum PR. You like how I did that one,
Man,
huh?
you are so full of bad puns lately.
I am punalicious, man.
Oh
I
my
mean, man,
God.
we're talking PR today, and
I'm going to talk to your doctor and you need to dial one of the meds down just a little bit. Just a little bit.
so when you're working with the cocktail that I've got right now, there's a lot of different medications that happen. I mean, I've been running my business for 16 years. I mean, depression, sure, man, right? Whatever. Hey, do you find yourself? In fact, I had to fill this survey out for the doc the other day. Do you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night depressed? Yes. Do you find yourself continually depressed? Yes. Do you find yourself thinking about committing suicide? No. Do you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night and with uncontrollable anxiety? Yes. So he's reading through all this. He goes, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, I own my own
I'm an
business, man. I
entrepreneur.
mean, what did you think I was going to say? Oh, it's all rosy. I'm at the golf course all day long because that's what everybody looked like they were doing before I started my flipping business. But
Yeah.
it didn't happen like that, did it?"
Did you tell your doctor that you wash your pills down with bourbon?
So funny enough, he says, "How many drinks a day?" I said,
Oh, I hate that question.
"Oh yeah, right." And then he goes, a drink is considered 1.5 ounces of liquor. I'm like, uh-huh. I said, that's just how I get started, my friend. That's just the warm up. That's like the mouthwash. Are you shitting me? And then he goes, and it's 5 ounces for wine. I said, yeah, so it's 2 to 3. He goes, all right, great, 2 to 3 a week. I'm like, oh, a week? I said, I meant that to be a day. Sorry. He goes, oh, well, and he goes into this long diatribe about how alcohol's bad for you. I'm like, blah, blah,
The
blah,
French
blah,
and
blah.
Italian have wine every night with dinner.
Well, that's what he did say.
Yeah.
We have as a society said it's okay to drink with dinner. I'm
Oh.
like, perfect. So I just started a little earlier.
So you just got to eat more. Is that what you're finding? Yeah.
I do that too.
Here goes Gout Light.
So
Yeah. By the way, I got one, and I know we have a guest waiting, but you want to know when you're old?
hit me.
I have my physical yesterday, and the doctor and I've had her for 25 years, and she goes, "So, do you spend much time thinking or worrying about death?"
Whoa.
Dead air, and it's dessert. And my wife was so mad. She's like, "Is there something she's not telling us?" And my sister says, "You need a new doctor." I'm like, "Oh my God,
We
what?"
do. Yeah,
Yeah,
screw that. I
I
mean, 'cause
know.
like I said, these questions. Yeah. You wake up every night. Yeah. In a dead sweat, of course. Are you always thinking about about what's going to happen next? Yep. Do you have this
I'm like,
uncontrollable worry that things aren't going to go right? Yes. I run my own business, man. What do you want?
I'm pretty good. And you asked me that question, and now I've been brooding on it for 2 days.
I love it when they do that too. I don't think they realize what they do to our psyche. Like, he said something to me. I'm trying to remember what it was, and now I've noticed. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Actually, that does hurt. You know what? It wasn't hurt before you said something, Doc. So, speaking of people who need better PR, let's talk about doctors. All right, Mickie Kennedy is joining us today. Everybody, PR is is an old phrase for old people that is not really understood very well for young people who just think, hey, just go on TikTok, go to YouTube, digital, yeah, just do that. Yeah, who needs PR? I don't even know what PR is. Okay, but Mickie's here, and Mickie's going to talk to us more about what PR is and what it can be for you. Mickie, thanks for joining the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
I hope you're going to tell Chris that TikTok is not PR. Or
Well,
maybe you will.
I mean, there's elements of social media that you can use for public relations and PR, but traditionally I look at using the wire, using press releases, getting that out to the media, of which, there are influencers on TikTok who use press releases. I follow Snackalator, which is a guy that does a weekly roundup of new snacks hitting grocery shelves. And all the photos that he uses are, product photos that are accompanying press releases that get issued on the wire. So, it can, trickle over to social media because there's an argument to be made that, the new media are influencers on social media.
But there's still a little more gravitas
Mhm.
when it comes to something being picked up off the wire, don't you think? Coming from still the more known to be traditional media sources.
Correct. I mean, yeah, if you're looking to get like in New York Times, Wall Street Journal, major publications, even industry trade publications, most of those journalists go to the wire to look for releases. And, in the US, it's basically a duopoly of press release newswires. It's PR Newswire, who we work with at eReleases, and Business Wire. There's a lot of other players out there with wire in their name, but most of them aren't wires. There's a lot of those that just specialize in syndicating press releases, and that just means that your press release is replicated on a bunch of websites. That happens with PR Newswire and Business Wire, but the ultimate goal is to have a journalist look at the press release and turn it into an article. And it doesn't happen if you're with these players that are just 100% syndicators, because there's no journalists there reading them. But at the Wire, there is, and the goal is to have them, look at that release and go, "Wow, my audience would really love to hear about this. Let me put that together in an article," and hit send. And we call that earned media when a journalist writes an article about you.
Earned media. Love that
Earned
phrase.
media.
So help me with something here, because we've established I'm old and apparently near death, and I should be worrying about it. But when I think about
True.
The Wire, I'm imagining, okay, you've got the New York Times, and then there's the little machine over in the corner that's just spitting out pieces of paper that are rolling up on the floor. And then hopefully your press release is the one that I mean, what does it look like today? Obviously it's all digital, but how are there different are there categories, or is it just this endless stream that somebody is assigned to just looking at every single thing that comes through, and then, oh, that one looks interesting?
Right. So most of the time, it's an individual journalist logging into PR Newswire's journalist section. And what it looks like is, yeah, they can see all of the feeds there, but most of them have feeds that are specific to them, the beats that they cover. So all of the wires are they can be segmented by industry. They can also be segmented by industry and location. They can also be segmented by keywords. And so you can create and say, "Hey, I want to see the automotive feed when I come in, but I don't want anything that mentions electric cars, or keywords to block, or Tesla and a few others." So you can really sort of tailor the feed to be specific to what you cover. So if you're a telecom reporter, you might look at the telecom feed, but maybe you put keywords in there to exclude stuff that you don't cover. Like maybe you're not interested in data, but you're only covering voice telecom traffic. So you start putting keywords in there. So what happens is, when you log in, you can look at a very customized feed that's really tailored for you, and that's the real value of a wire, so that you'll still see headlines after headlines, but they're really relevant, or they should be really relevant to the beat that you cover. And that's what makes the Wire so valuable for journalists. They can really just log in and see stuff that is a higher caliber of news content than logging into their email inbox and just seeing a plethora of releases, like or email messages and pitches that might be telecom golf clubs, and there's so much off target email that journalists are getting that most of them really do rely on the Wire. What happened over the last 15 to 20 years is there's all these media databases that are available, and you could just buy the database of journalists. And for a guy that paid a few $1,000s for access to this database, they're just like, "Yeah, we can take our message and pitch it to really tailored journalists, but we paid for the whole database. Why not send it to everybody?" And so they're sending, golf club releases to, people who cover banking, e-commerce, really specific stuff. And so off targeting email is just not good right now. It's like a wasteland for most journalists. And I think that that's why the Wire has become, so important to journalists, and why they rely on it so much.
So, Chris, 2 years of podcasting, the first use of the word plethora.
Yeah.
I know.
You know what?
Mickey is so much smarter than all of us.
He is. Well, if you see his glasses, you'd know why. Those are cool.
So it pays to have a good PR person who actually understands how it's not good enough to just write a good article, but you have to have it tailored correctly. You have to have the headline correct. My guess is there's probably a cadence as to when you actually release it, Like there's certain times or days of the week that are better.
So Mickey, that's a 25-part question. So feel free to
I
expound
landed.
on
The
that.
plane is on the
Okay.
ground.
All
You
right.
can,
All right,
yeah.
Mickey. Continue the answer because I want to know the answers too. But I was like, oh my God, that's a lot to
Sure.
take in.
You
So-
know,
Well,
just
Thora.
because I use more than 2-3 words once in a while, Chris, I mean, you know,
All
take a walk in my shoes.
Shoo, you know
Yeah.
what? I just did. I don't like it. Give me my shoes back. All right. All right, Mickey, answer that question.
So when it comes to, yes, there's lots of different aspects of PR. It used to be every Monday was like one of the better days to send a release, and then everybody sort of said Monday's the day to do it. So people started moving to Tuesday. Tuesday's now the day that most releases get sent. And for that reason, I tell people it's no longer the best day. You're going to be competing against so many more. The volume is up probably double on Tuesday than most other days of the week. And for that reason, Tuesdays aren't great days anymore. So, maybe Monday. Monday's still a high day, but I think Wednesdays are really good. Um, you know, Thursdays are fine. There are people who avoid Fridays, and they believe that nobody's paying attention on Fridays.
You avoid
Despite,
every Friday, don't you, Chris?
yeah,
If it's talking about work, yeah, of course.
despite that, when publicly traded companies have bad news, they issue it Friday after the close of the market. And
Genius.
guess what's always there on the headlines Monday morning? What they announced. They never sneak it through. So I don't think there's necessarily a terrible day. I think journalists are paying attention all the time. But I do think that Tuesdays have become burdened with so much content that it really is probably best to avoid it unless you have to. I mean, if you've got a recall or something that's really important and just has to go out, then it has to go out when it does. But I necessarily wouldn't schedule stuff on a Tuesday.
All right. So now we got to talk about this. So I've always thought too is that we talked about social media, but right now I could go out there on Twitter and say that Chris Lalvani has just been drafted by the Atlanta Falcons. There you go. But there's no draft, and I'm completely wrong. And by the way, nobody's going to draft this old, fat, very slow.
It might create a little bit of a buzz, though.
But it's incorrect, right? It's completely erroneous information. I always felt like the Wire was held to a different standard.
You're talking about integrity of journalism at this point.
Exactly right, and which of course is coming under a lot of scrutiny because of everything that's happening and everything breaks. We're just trying to break something. So tell us a little bit more about what is the Wire's integrity standard, and is it harder? Is it got to be right? I mean, it's got to be right?
Or does it matter?
I don't know.
So the Wire does not fact check. That being said, they won't send something that is just materially known, as false. What they do verify are the people releasing the press release that they are who they say they are, and if they're with the company that they have authorization to issue the press release. If they're publicly traded, there's additional follow-ups to verify that when you send a release over, they'll actually call the person on record and say, "Hey, you sent us a release, right?" Like, "Yep, I just uploaded it." And I said, "Perfect, just checking." They read the headline, everything's good. They really aren't getting into what you're releasing is factual. But that being said, if you submit something that's erroneous, they will pull it if it's brought to their attention, and they will block you from issuing subsequent releases. They do try to maintain quality over the Wire. So if you're just out there and you're releasing opinions about other companies, they're very watchful of that. And so anytime that you're mentioning something that is material, especially if it's material about a publicly traded company, they are going to ask often for verification or proof that what you're saying is true, especially if it has the chances of moving the needle of a publicly traded company. And for that reason, you can't do that through my company, eReleases. You would have to have a direct relationship with the Wire, and they would have to vet you based on your experience with the Wire. So if you're a client that moves 30 releases like this a year and you've been working with them for 7 years, they'll probably be fine with that release after talking to you and saying, are you sure that this is the position you want to take? You're clear. They're publicly like, yep. And so then they'll hit send. But they really don't get into, verifying stuff outside of perhaps litigation, which again, we don't handle as well. In
Well, I
that
just got
case,
blocked. So
there you go.
obviously it works. Yep. So that you won't find that you will not find that press release. You won't find that bit of information anywhere. I have not been picked up by the Falcons.
So you've got a little pressure on you. You're working with a company and you're going to put together a press release, and whether or not it's picked up and by how many outlets it's picked up by is how you're measured, correct?
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, we're sending these releases out. We're, indicating the industry categories that we want that are appropriate. We're blasting it out and hoping that a lot of people cover us. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 publications pick it up. Sometimes it's just like it seems like an endless number of people will pick something up. On my website, we have our top case study was basically an organization that was set up early in the pandemic called the Dining Bond Initiative. It was meant just to help restaurants that were closed early in the pandemic. And we sent out a release for them at no charge because they were doing good. So we just felt like we'd support that. And, we quit counting after 150 articles. All the major publications picked it up, and probably another 150 to 200 local papers picked it up. So we just stopped counting at 150. It resonated. It went nationwide. It actually went international as well. It did extremely well. And the reason for it was here you have The Wire. It conceded to so many places. We were all sent home for 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and there was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of unknowns. And here was some positive news. And you could nominate your favorite local restaurant, and if this organization, the volunteers, got in touch with them, you could give money that would go directly to them, and it'd be secured through a dining bond, basically a gift certificate type thing. And over $11 million was generated by just hitting a button and hitting send on a press release on The Wire. So that's like a wild, extreme of what can happen if your messaging is completely right on. And in that case, it was. And so it did extremely well. What would have cost $350 generated over $11 million in revenue that went and helped. And, that is an extreme example. What normally happens is you have something that goes out and you just get a few publications that cover you. And they are often meaningful. They can generate many tens of thousands, and I've even heard of hundreds of thousands. But in this case, 11 million, that's a lot. And that is an extreme example. And I think it just did so well because it took advantage of the fact that a wire is a leverage opportunity. And in this case, it just went really far.
So I love that for the dining folks, but and this is where I want to get now is who should use your service and what should you expect? And I got a remodeling and handyman company here in Atlanta. Press releases don't work, but I did publish a book. I thought about doing a press release. We have the podcast here. Who should use yours and what should we expect?
So I really think that press releases should be used by small businesses, entrepreneurs, startups, in some cases, authors. It can work well for basically nonfiction authors. Fiction authors is difficult because, one of the great things about fiction is the style of writing and so many other elements that you just really can't capture in a press release. But I really think that, small companies have an advantage when it comes to PR. So many people believe it's just the opposite. They feel like, oh, PR is for well-funded, large companies. And the thing is, most journalists know that those companies can afford to advertise. And so, they will cover important news. Everybody has to cover the Googles and Microsofts of the world. But, journalists get their most accolades and recognition from their audience when they bring up or put the spotlight on a new tool or something that's cool and trending, basically something that the audience doesn't know. And for that reason, it often is a small business, a new startup, even a mom and pop company. And so for that reason, often the smaller you are, the more likely you can generate PR. But you have to be doing something that's newsworthy and moving the needle, or you have to really dig in and sort of create something that's newsworthy by being a bit more strategic. When I say that, what do I mean? I mean, like, what is your unique selling proposition? What defines you and makes you completely different than everybody else in your marketplace? Or what is your story? What is it about, how your business was created or the product was created that is interesting or inspirational or fun? There's a reason that most people who appear on Shark Tank often began with their story, and it's because it humanizes them, and it is a human interest element, and those work so well with PR because journalists like to tell stories. They like to follow a story arc, and sort of taking a business and talking about it from the framework of where it began, and those types of elements really draws people in. We had a client that shared an embarrassing story, and I said, let's put that in the press release. And it wasn't the lead, but it was in there, and that became the lead in a 2-page Inc. magazine article about them. And it was something that people can relate to. People have embarrassing things that happen in business, and other business owners relate to it. And it was just a great introduction into that company. And I think that's one of the reasons that it did well. Data.
Yeah.
Journalists love data and numbers. So if you have a product launch press release, which we get a lot of them, they're usually, we have a new product and here's a bullet list of features and here's a page about it and you can buy it. That's hard for a journalist who's a storyteller to do much with. So go back to it, put a use case study in there, a client who tested it out, what was their experience, ideally if there's some numbers there, a quote by them. And maybe to introduce it, you could even talk about publicly available numbers that are just out there about your industry. If you have logistics solutions and you have some numbers that say, hey, 67% of new companies in this space fail within the first 5 years, and often it's because of problems like logistics. In fact, logistics accounts for X amount of expenses, and all of a sudden you introduce your solution. Those really anchor the story, and they help draw people in and really show, I guess, the stakes of importance of a product or solution that you have. So incorporating those numbers and data are really great. One thing that I do when I have clients who come to me and they're like, tried PR, it didn't work for me. I always say, well, I have one press release that's never failed. It's always worked, always generated earned media, and it's a little involved, but it's not as difficult as it sounds. And that is to do your own industry survey. Um, you know, uh, Put together a survey. I walk people through it all the time with.
Hang on, wait. You said industry survey. Back me up, right? Small business guy, home services, remodeling. Tell me the first step I got to do because I was trying to write this down. So industry
Okay.
survey.
An industry survey. So if you're a home remodeler, you're going to do a survey that's going to go out to other home remodelers. Do you want it to be state, regional, nationwide? You pick. And what you're
Well, I
going to
wish
do.
nationwide, but right now I'm just here in Atlanta. I'm still too
No,
small for that. Yeah.
the survey has nothing to do with your location.
Oh, okay.
You can make it regional, you can make it statewide, or you can make it national. What you're doing is you're just putting yourself out there as the expert talking about it. And so I recommend go national, and then build a survey, ask 16 meaningful questions that are relevant today. Not necessarily evergreen questions that you can always ask, but what's going on right now? What are the things in your industry trade publications that are trending and a lot of people have been talking about?
All right. So do I put that survey out through you, or is this my own
Nope.
survey?
No.
This is your own survey. You're going to go into Survey Monkey and you're going to create 16
Well, how do I get a
questions.
nationwide audience?
No. He's saying
I'm being
that if
obtuse, I know.
you are being obtuse, he's saying that there's one thing that you can do as a small business owner that will get picked up on the wire is when you do an industry specific survey.
Oh, okay.
Right. And I'm going to tell you how you're going to send it out to the audience. And it's not a lot of work. You don't need to have your own Rolodex of every, home improvement or home remodeler across the US. There are hundreds, maybe even, sometimes thousands of trade associations in every industry. In the PR world, I looked once and counted over 600. And there probably were more. So you're not going to go to the big trade association that's probably out there, but you're going to peruse some. They might be regional. They might just be like sometimes they're based around demographics or lots of different things. I did one for an auto repair shop in Pennsylvania, and we found an independent auto repair shop trade association. I think that they had like 1,900 members. You're just going to find one, and you're going to take that link in Survey Monkey from your questionnaire, and you're going to reach out to them and say, "Hey, I'm doing a survey of the auto repair industry, and I would love for you to send this link to your members. And in exchange for that, I will mention you in the press release I'll be issuing over the wire." And the reason this works so well with the smaller trade associations is they get no media attention. It's the big trade association that everybody recognizes and knows. So often they'll see this as a win-win for them to get some media attention as well. Some of the smarter ones have pushed back and said, could we co-brand the survey so that it's from you and me? I don't see a problem with that. It gives a little more credibility to the survey. But often, they'll then take that link, they'll send it to their members, often through email, sometimes through social media. Often you can get them to do it through both, especially if you come back and say, hey, I haven't quite gotten enough people to complete the survey. You're really looking for 100 or more to complete the survey. The more you get over 100, the more journalists seem to be fine with it. And that's it. And when you're doing the survey,
so I do the survey, I get it out, and I get back, and I go back to you. So I'm trying to figure out how
don't go back to me unless you want to pay me. But what I recommend is you look at the results from the survey. You look at it and say, wow, that's surprising. Question number 5, that's really cool. You want to build a story around no more than 2 or 3 of the questions and responses.
Gotcha.
I recommend that you build out a page on your website where you put all 16 questions and their responses and the results. And you're going to include that in the press release because journalists are smarter than me, and they're probably smarter than the client. And often they'll go there and they'll be able to pull up 2 or 3 more stories that you didn't even think about based on the survey results. And you're still going to get credit for it and mentioned because it's your survey. So you're going to take and focus on 2 or 3 of the questions and responses that you got from the questions, what I call the big aha moments from the survey, the big surprises. You're going to put a quote in there as to why you felt the numbers skewed a particular way. You're providing analysis now, your opinion, because you're the expert. And once you have that all together, you're going to then come to me, and we'll look at the release, make sure it's in great shape, and we'll schedule it and get it out there on the wire. Whenever I've coached a client through this, it's always generated between, on average, 8 to 14 articles of earned media. The least we've ever done is 4. And, it was, I think that one was for, I forget the name of it, but it was something to do with security, and it was a specific aspect. And so they were quite pleased getting 4. But again,
so Mickie, this is super powerful because when you think about, our average listener is a small business owner or somebody thinking about small business, and we've talked about marketing a ton. And I don't think we've ever discussed PR as being part of your marketing package. But when you think about the client, you know, you're you almost spend your life trying to avoid being marketed to because you're just tired of the texts and the emails and the commercials and all that. But you see an article about your business that is massively powerful. So I'm assuming, some guy who's got a plumbing operation or I don't know, a handyman business or something like that, you can geo target the release as opposed to, it doesn't matter if you send it out internationally because somebody in
Right.
Portugal
You
isn't.
could go out nationally. You could do local saturation where it goes to a state or a metro. Exactly. I mean, it's really an opportunity for you to go to who matters, as
But
well as
it should be, I mean, this should just, I mean, everybody listening should be thinking about PR as part of my overall marketing package. I've got my traditional advertising, I've got my social media, and I have my PR. It's like a, three-legged stool or something, right, Chris?
Well, there's a lot of stools in there, a lot of legs. But right, but you're
You're a
right.
stool.
Nobody in my world of home services, and I just got done talking to a number of them. I was in a networking event on Tuesday, was on a radio show earlier today. Nobody talks about PR and how it helps benefit your company. And I think that's the thing we need to understand a little bit better. How does that help me? Because I'll do
I
pay
just
per click.
explained it.
You
And
did.
it's such a differentiator.
All right. So how do I do it?
No,
I was
well,
writing
he
notes.
just said how to do it.
Well, I know. I
Right.
got to
And
make
I
a survey.
explained why you should
But now
do
I
it.
got to do all the work.
My
I want
God,
him to do the
how much
work.
bourbon have you had today?
I have not enough. But all right, so I got to do a survey. I take the 2 to 3 AHA questions, and then I got to start paying you at some time, man, because I can't do all this shit myself. Because if I
sure.
did, I would have done it myself, right?
Right.
I'm a small business owner. I can't do all this stuff, and I don't see the benefit because does an article make my phone ring?
Yes. But it's
Right.
not a call to action thing. I mean, to me, if I saw an article about a business, I'm like, wow, they must be legit. They're big
Yeah.
enough to get picked up by the paper or the whatever.
All right, prove
It's
me right.
it's huge credibility. It acts as like social proof or almost an implied endorsement when a journalist writes about you. The blinders that come up whenever we see ads, and that's the one thing that advertising has trained the US market is it doesn't matter if we see it on TikTok or a billboard or a TV or radio. We just tune it out for the most part. Sometimes we'll share a funny ad that we saw, but rarely does it get us to immediately go and buy something. And however, with an article, it can have the exact opposite approach. I do have clients who are in the consumer market, and they sell stuff that's really affordable, and they'll say, "Hey, we saw that we got 400 visitors from this article." And it looks like 200 of them bought. Is that even possible? 50% conversion rate. And the first thing I say is, we don't know how many people actually viewed the article. Could be 5,000, but of the people who did click through and see it, they saw the product. It's not crazy expensive. They're coming with these warm feelings of, wow, there's this signal of trust. This person wrote about this really cool product, and yeah, they'll just click and buy. That's not unusual. And that's the same opportunity that was created through that with a new customer. You can then take that article or the link to it and share it with your own audience. So share it on social media, and hopefully people who read it will get the same warm and fuzzies and want to do business with you. Send it to your customers, because there's churn, and there's always customers who say, I need to try out another company just to make sure I've been working with the right one. And
To them, I say I'll slash your tires. I mean,
so they'll see that and often say, I don't need to shop this year. We're with the right company. And
thank
then
you.
leads.
All right, I'll keep you know what? Good news for you. Your tires stay alive.
There you go.
Great.
Hey, so Mickie, can a small business owner call you or somebody like you and just say, I don't know if I have a story, but I believe in PR. I understand the value of it. It's so much more powerful than just sending out a million ads. And can you help them? Can you, interview them and then help them come up with a story that sounds like this might actually work?
Sure. So I have a free masterclass where I go through all the strategic types of press releases that work. And I think that's a good place for anybody to start. And then once they're done with that, then they can come to us. They can chat or call or email and ask questions, and we'll review anything that they have.
How did they
And
find the masterclass?
so it's at ereleases.com/plan, PLAN, and it's completely free. It's about hour-long video masterclass, and it goes through the types of releases that get picked up. So many people look at what their competitors send out as a press release or other people in the industry, and they send those out. And I'm telling you, 95% of press releases don't get any pickup. They're people doing personnel changes, and it's not a new executive, and it's not like, an industry veteran. Nobody cares. Send it to your local newspaper and maybe a trade publication, and they might put it on the move section, and that's it. Save your money. Don't pay to go over the wire with a personnel press release. Do
Nice.
meaningful press releases that have a higher likelihood of getting pickup.
All right, so you actually offered up the free, it's ereleases.com plan. I'll put that in the notes.
I think
for
that
everybody.
would be well worth
So
a watch.
That's where, yeah, 100%, right?
Yeah.
It's an hour of your time for free, for nothing, right?
To learn about, we always talk about the fact that we have to learn lessons the hard way, and it always costs us money and it's painful. Here's a way to learn all you need to know about press releases.
Well, that's going to cut into my March Madness basketball watching time.
You can still drink while you watch the masterclass.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Oh my God, that's best. All right, but let's talk about that. So let's say I've done the survey. I went through your master class. I got it figured out. I know what I want to do. Oh, I don't know how to do it. I want to get with you guys, and I want to have Mickie and his team and e-releases. What are your starting packages? What should I expect to spend? Because if you don't have an advertising budget, guys, if you're a corporate guy thinking about starting a thing, I just got done interviewing somebody who said, you know what, I'm going to bootleg my way all the way up, and they're already at $12 million in revenue. And you're like, listen, person, and I just have to say it because I just got done talking to an advertising guy today. I'm like, at that point, you got to be thinking money because you need to spend money to make money, baby. So where do we start at?
Right. So I would recommend that you contact us. We have a new customer special. You can get a release out for like $350.
Well, stop right there.
That's it.
He just said $350.
I would have
right?
expected.
Exactly.
I know.
Right. I mean,
And we're starting to sound like an infomercial, but this is new stuff.
oh, but wait, there's more.
Yeah, that's right.
but seriously,
steak knives.
But that's the point. I think a lot of times people say, well, press releases, well, it doesn't move the needle. Oh, okay. So go out there and do your $5,000, do your $10,000 a month on Valpak and money mailers.
Who says a press release doesn't move the needle? Well, and if it's a new hire, yeah, I get that. But if somebody's writing an article about your business, you don't think that's going to make the phone ring?
In B2C, no, I don't think so. I think a lot of home services companies don't think it's going to be a win in my sphere that I'm in now. They think press releases are for exactly what Mickie just said. Oh, look, Chris has just been promoted to SVP. Hey, do you want to buy product now from SunTrust because Chris got promoted to SVP? No, nobody give a shit. That's what we thought press releases are. I mean, that's the mode I came from.
Well,
Right.
so you did not know.
So,
I don't know.
a lot of press releases don't move the needle. So you have to focus on the types of releases that will. And that masterclass goes through a great exercise for a lot of them. One of them is research your industry for blind spots or gaps. And I have a client that's like a perfect example for that. There was a carpet company in New Jersey that approached us and said, we have a budget to do a press release a month, and you guys write it. We offer writing for additional 300, so the 350 plus 300. And they said, here you go. And I'm just like, I don't know, I will try, but I don't think this is going to work after our initial talk, because they weren't doing anything different than any other local carpet company in any city across the US. So we took their money. We did 4 releases over 4 months, and nothing happened. And at that point, I'm like, we need to talk. And so we talked, went through an exercise of asking questions. I asked, who's your biggest enemy? And I expected him to say, oh, it's Al across the street with his little rug emporium. But he said, no, it's the big box home improvement stores. And then they just went into a litany of how bad Home Depot and Lowe's is for the carpet industry. The padding that they use, but even more importantly is the people who install the carpet. They do not call a list of carpet installers when they are out trying to get a job. They pick up the phone and they have a list of everybody who has a home improvement license in the state, and they just start calling and they say, "Hey, we have a job tomorrow for 2,200 square feet of carpet to be installed at 11 a.m. at this place. Can you do it?" And if you just called a roofer who has a home improvement license, he's got no work the next day, he's going to YouTube and trying to figure out how to do carpet, and he'll be the person installing the next day.
And the only reason he'll do it is because he doesn't really realize the going rate, because those stores that you mentioned, which I can't say here because there'll probably be a hit put out in my life because Home Depot is here. Oh, did I say that out loud? Shit. But you do it at half rate. That's the deal.
Right.
Because they got to make a profit too, right? So if you're willing to do it at half tomorrow, you can do the job. Is that the guy you really want? Is that the team you really want touching your house? Hell no. So back to your press release, that's what you said. The villains.
So we did a David versus Goliath approach with our press release, and just sort of attacked how we have to, small independent carpet companies have to compete against these big box home improvement stores, and how bad they are for the industry. We sent that out, and it went viral in the floor trade world, as much as viral can be in the floor trade world. Like Floor Trade Weekly, this floor publication picked it up. Over a dozen floor trade publications picked it up. And they were ecstatic, my clients, and they're like, "This is what we need." And so I was like, none of your customers read these. These are other carpet companies like yours reading these industry publications. They said, "Nope, this is great. We want more of this." So we were able to tweak that messaging and continue to send out releases over the 12-month period. And at the end of it, we had about 30 clips. Most of them were floor trade publications. We did get them in their local newspaper and New Jersey Magazine, which is a really big coup for them. Though they said New Jersey Magazine started calling a lot, saying, "Would you like to advertise?"
Of course,
But,
of course.
But the thing that they did and showed that they were better marketers than I was is they put together a brag book of all these clippings that they printed out. And every time they went and gave someone a quote for a new carpet install, they said, "Hey, look, we may not come in the cheapest, but we've been doing this for X amount of years. We really stand by our work. You'll never have to call us back to restretch a carpet or to fix a seam that is just visible." And we've been picked up in Floor Trade Weekly. We've been picked up here. We've been picked up in local paper. They just sort of go through the book with them. And just based on adding that to the conversation, it really is an extra maybe minute or 2 minutes.
Super powerful.
17% improvement in conversion rates. They started converting
Wow.
17% more of every consultation. So almost 1 out of every 5 homes they went into that used to say no, now is saying yes. And that was just like really moved the needle for them. They had to, hire more people, and they really grew throughout that. And that's just like shows how you can, that book is still alive and still working for them. And I think it's been like 4 years now. And that's the real value of something like that, because if you're a homeowner, you're wanting to trust who's coming in. And for a lot of people, they seem all very similar, and it comes down to price. But you have someone who comes to you and they've been recognized nationally in the industry that you're hiring them for, you're not going to have a bad experience. You feel comfortable. And, what's that worth? An extra $200 or $300? Most people are like, yeah, I would gladly pay that.
This has been awesome. Mickie Kennedy and ereleases.com. Mickie, you guys are doing great work. I love that. ereleases.com/plan. I would love to stay longer. Unfortunately, Big Daddy's got to go out and do some networking. I didn't realize we're running up against a bumper. So, Mickie, lastly, ereleases.com. Is there any other way that people get a hold of you?
Yeah, all my social media is on the lower right of ereleases.com. The only one I understand is LinkedIn, but I've got people who handle the rest. And again, feel free to reach out to my staff. I only hire editors. There's no salespeople, no quotas, no commissions. And if we feel we can't help you, we're empowered to. Everybody's empowered to tell you that. And sometimes we can't help you, but we are very creative, and we find lots of ways to make sure you stand out.
And that's a subtle, great sell right there. That's a humble brag sell right there. And I love that move.
Yep.
That beats the sandwich clothes, maybe the raccoon clothes. He's got the humble. Mickie Kennedy, thank you for enlightening us on what PR is all about, because I am Magnum PR, baby. I am going to get on this stuff,
You
huh?
just doubled down, didn't
I
you?
did.
Chris?
Hey, you said you liked it. I was going back for it. Look, guys, you got to go out there. You've been riding with us, hopefully on the windshield. Hopefully keeping your eyes on the road. Don't hit that guy in front of you unless he has that thing that says
Student
am a
driver.
student driver, 4 stickers.
Yeah.
You may take his bumper right off. For me, you can. No, I'm kidding. I didn't say that. You can't put that on me. Don't ever sue me on that one, because I can't take that lawsuit, because all news and all PR is not good PR. You got to have good PR. Mickie Kennedy, ereleases.com. Go find him. Go make it happen. Let's go up that mountain.
Cheers, everybody.